It is time for another book review. This time we are going over everything I read in March. March was another really good reading month, and when I say that, I don't usually mean by the amount of books I get through. It was the quality of books. I did read 10 books and I enjoyed all but maybe two, so that was pretty good for me. The reading month started out really strong with V.E. Schwab's Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This one my friend picked out for our monthly book club read that we're doing online between the two of us. I had not heard of this one before, and I probably wouldn't have read it if she had not suggested it, but it was really good. It's about this young woman who is born in the 1700s in France, and she is running away from a arranged marriage that she doesn't want, and she makes a deal with a god um, to just basically keep living as long as she wants to until she decides that she's no longer interested in living anymore and she sells her soul to do this. So you travel with her through about 300 years of her living. The catch to this deal that she made is that no one remembers her. Like, as soon as they leave the room or um, turn away from her, they have no recollection of her name or who she is. So she never has roots with anyone because she can't remember, they can't remember her. And so part of that is like she never has a home to herself because like no one remembers her, like as far as even renting a room for the night or even like a lease. So she can never stay somewhere very long. And at first she experiences a lot of hardships, but then she figures out how to um, work with these rules and still live a really incredible life and have fun doing it. And then fast forward to the present, she meets someone who remembers her for the first time, and then things start to evolve and change for her. And it was really good. I really enjoyed the ending, so I definitely recommend this one. I think I gave it a 5 star. Really good. And then for March, I read the Stephen King. It is a kind of like a prequel extra story to the Dark Tower series that my husband and I just finished last month in February. And in that video, I said that I wasn't going to read this for a really long time because I really didn't like the way that series ended. Um, but this one kind of takes place like in the middle of all those books. I think they call it like 4.5 out of the 7 books, 7 or 8 books that there are. So it's like a story within that story, and it was actually really good. I actually ended up liking this more than the other ones, and I think it was because the stakes were low. Like, I knew what was going to happen at the end of the series, so I know nothing was going to like drastically happen to any of the characters. And then so it's like this one is a story of when Roland is in his younger years, when he is a gunslinger with his original Catet. And within that story, there's another story that he's telling someone. So it's like 2 stories deep. So you're basically like getting 3 stories in one. And it was really good. I liked how they, um, or how he tied it all in. I think there might be another one in this series coming out. Hopefully it's kind of like this one because it was really good, and I was joking that it made up for how terrible the book series ended. So I think Stephen King like maybe wrote this one as an amends to his fans of the series that may not have enjoyed the way it ended, but very enjoyable. So the 2 books that I did not enjoy this year, I got from the library, and it was just kind of on a whim that I got them. Um, when you reserve books on their website, it says while you wait you may want to check out these books, and it gives you some suggestions. And they had suggested one. It was kind of like a dog memoir, and it was called Never Leave the Dogs at Home. And so I got that one, kind of thinking of my life with Charlotte. I wanted something um, inspiring to read about a connection with their dogs, but it was a second memoir by the same author, so I decided to read the first one first so that in case I was missing anything, and I'm glad that I did that because it made more sense reading them together. The first one was called Nowhere for Very Long, and that story is about this she's a social media person. What is her name? Uh, I can't remember the author's name at the moment, but she decides to, she and her husband at the time, when they're in their 20s, basically move from the East Coast out to Utah and end up living nomadically in their van. And they have 2 dogs, and I don't know. I didn't really connect with either of the books from her. The first one was about their nomadic lifestyle and about this like orange van that they bought that was always falling apart, but they didn't want to part with. But then at the end of the book, they accidentally run one of their dogs over because they usually let their dogs out to run alongside their van when they're like traveling on dirt roads, which that just like, oh my god. Um, we actually, growing up, had something similar happen with a neighbor dog, and I just like, as soon as I read that that's what they did, like to let their dogs run, I knew something bad was going to happen. Thankfully the dog survived, but it was this whole traumatic thing. um, and it was horrible. But then after that, I guess their marriage kind of fell apart, and so then that led into the second book, which I thought it was going to be all about her relationship with her dogs, but it ended up being her and her husband's divorce and how she was coping with it in really terrible ways, as far as like alcohol use and just not wanting to live anymore. And it was like, it was not what I was expecting and not what I was hoping to read, so that was a disappointment. So those 2 books did not score high um, on my rating system this month. Then after that, my husband and I decided for this month we were going to read the Hunger Game trilogy. I have had this one for a really long time, the first one, but for some reason I gave my copies of the second and third books away several years ago, but we were at the thrift store a couple months ago and they had these, so I knew I wanted to eventually reread these and have them in my collection again, so I bought them. Um, and they were really good. I loved this when I first read it in my early 20s, and they still hold up the second time I read them as a more mature adult. They're just so good, and I have not read them since I originally did, like 20 years ago. Um, so I forgot how detailed they were for YA books, and just they were just really amazing. Super sad, which I kind of like sad endings because they seem more realistic. And yeah, I love all the characters, just how complex everything gets. I am really looking forward to reading the sequels. I'm going to probably in a couple weeks go on another bookish adventure. I'm hoping to find the uh, first or both of the prequels, so I'm going to get those and we're gonna read them together. The library also has all the movies, so we are going to watch those this weekend, which will be really fun. But yeah, I think I gave all of these a 5-star because I love them. I love Katniss, I love Peeta. It's super sad what happens to everyone, and I just, it's a story that has stuck with me since I first read it. And I don't think I've watched all the movies. Like, I think I've watched the first 2, but I never watched Mockingjay. So I'll be watching that for the first time, which will be fun. Another one I got from the library, it's called Pumpkin. And I just kind of picked this up randomly while I was looking for other books. And it was really cute. I did not realize it was part of another trilogy book series by the author that did Dumplin'. And if you haven't heard of Dumplin', Netflix made a movie of it a couple years ago starring Jennifer Aniston, and it's this super cute story of this high school girl who's a little bit on the chubbier side, who she loves Dolly Parton, so she sings Dolly Parton all the time, but she decides she's going to enter a beauty contest with her best friend, and it's just super adorable. When I was reading Pumpkin, I was thinking this feels a lot like Dumplin', and then I realized, I read the cover on the back and realized that it was the same author and same series. So really cute. I'm definitely gonna buy those books eventually because they were just super adorable. But there's Dumplin', there's Puddin', and Pumpkin. And Pumpkin was a story. It's about a different character, but they all go to the same high school and they're about the same age. So it's kind of like a continuation of story, and they pick different characters that they may have touched base on in another book, but you can definitely read them out of order. Like, I did not feel like I was missing anything by not reading the first two books. But Pumpkin is about a high school boy who's also on the chubby side, and he's also gay, living in Texas, and is kind of, he feels out of place. Like, he definitely is not ashamed of who he is, but he also feels like he kind of can't be his full self in his high school. And so um, as a joke, some of the other kids in high school nominate him to be prom queen, because this video of him accidentally gets released of him in drag, which no one was actually supposed to see. But after it got around the high school, they nominated him for prom queen, and another girl who's also a lesbian, they nominate her for a prom king. And so instead of feeling ashamed, they decide to go for it. And it's fun to see them blossom individually, and then just how, like, instead of being made fun of, they are actually pretty accepted by their fellow students, which they weren't realizing. And yeah, it was just a really good story, super cute. I kind of hope there's more in that series because yeah, just adorable. And then this month I also read The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. I think this came out in 2018. It's a YA book, but it's really heavy. It deals with a lot of issues within the Black community as far as growing up and being seen as threats by authority figures and the police specifically. And it's this young girl, I think she's 16. She lives in a primarily Black neighborhood that has a lot of crime going on, but her parents put her into a private school that is primarily white, and so she's living like two different lives and has two different versions of her personality that she presents. And then unfortunately one night she's driving home with her friend and they get stopped by the police, and he is shot and killed. And so it's her moving forward. She's pretty scared both by the police, and you learn all these things about like what's happening in her neighborhood as far as like rival gangs, and just all these tense situations. And she's trying to figure out the best way to honor her friend who died, but also stay safe because she's afraid for her life by different people. And it was super sad, super realistic. Like I said, it was written in 2018, but it seriously feels like it could have been written like within the last couple years, because it is so relevant to what goes on in our country. But yeah, it feels like it's just like, I don't know. It was just so good. It took me a while to get through because the story is pretty intense, and so I had to take a couple breaks from it. But really good. She's a great character. Her family's awesome, and she eventually figures out how to blend her two lives together. Lastly, I was not expecting to start or finish this month. It is The Year of Less, but I started it on the 31st of March and finished it in one day. But it was really good. I had heard of this book before. It was written in 2018 again, but and I thought it would be kind of a how-to guide of how to live with it less throughout the year. That's kind of what the cover to me looks like it's going to be about, but it was actually about the author Kate Flanders. She decides to go on a no-buy year, and she just documents every single month in a like memoir style of everything that happened, and how deciding to go on a no-buy year affected all of these situations that she found herself in throughout the year. Previously, she mentions that she struggled with drugs and alcohol, and also binge eating. And so before she started this decluttering and no buy year, she really worked on herself. She gave up alcohol, stopped doing drugs, and started eating healthier and exercising more regularly. And so then once she did all those things, she still felt herself like overspending on stuff, and she just like she really wanted to travel and um, save money. Oh, the other thing she mentions before doing this challenge is that she was $30,000 in debt, mostly on credit cards, because she had a spending addiction. And so um, she has a vlog, I think it was called Blonde on a Budget, where she tackles um, how she paid that debt off in like less than 3 years, maybe like 2.5. And so then after she did that, it kind of led into this book, which is about her trying to figure out why she spends so much money and trying to fix that. So she does like a whole apartment purge where she just declutters and gets rid of anything that she's not thinks she's going to use with in the near future or hasn't used recently. And then she starts this challenge of not buying anything that she lists as non-essentials. Um, and so then she like goes through each month of how that impacted her, but it's not really focused on spending money, like what she did and didn't spend. It's more on the situation she ends up in. Like she finds out her parents are getting divorced and she's really devastated by that, and her old mechanism or her old coping mechanism used to be to go out and spend money, but since she wasn't doing that, she had to just kind of sit with her emotions um, and find other ways to cope with that in a healthy way. Same with, she decides towards the end of her challenge that she isn't satisfied at her job anymore, so she decides that she's going to save up her money to give her like 6 months, and then she's gonna quit. Um, and so it's just kind of, it's more about like how when you're not spending this money on frivolous stuff that you don't need, then you can redirect it into emergency situations or traveling more, or if your life's uncertain, you have a nice cushion. So I thought it was really good. I took a lot of notes on it because I feel like I definitely identified with a lot of these things, and things she said just like rang really true. Like in the very beginning when she's purging her apartment of stuff she doesn't want or thinks she's going to need anymore, she says that she has everything piled up by the door to go take to Goodwill, and it's like quite a big stack of boxes and bags. And as she's looking at it, she goes, am I really going to get rid of this stuff? And her mind wants her to like go back through and make sure that like there isn't anything in there that she like accidentally threw away and she's going to want later on. And that happens to me a lot. Like I will purge and get it ready to like take to the donation place, and then I'm like, wait, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to get rid of something? Oh, but what if I really need that? Like things like that were really relatable. And yeah, really enjoy this book. If you like are on a minimalist journey or slow intentional living, anything like that, definitely recommend this one. I might need to buy it to have on my shelf just to like flip through every so often, because it was really enjoyable. So that was my stack for this month. It was a good month. I felt like for a while I was kind of in a reading slump, but then I think once I started reading The Hunger Games, like those just like grabbed me, and then I just like kept going. So yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed most of them, like I said. I have tons of books on my TBR for the next several months, but I'm looking forward to all the books I'm going to read for April. But yeah, like I mentioned, in a few weeks, I think I'm going to go on another little bookish adventure to a different town close by. So if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe, because I I like to talk books on here, as well as talk about intentional living and just kind of have like a cozy, slow, realistic life. So if those are things you enjoy, follow along for more content. And again, thank you all for being here.